Good morning, everybody. My name is Sandra Sheffra. I'm the president of the Democratic Women's Club of Greater Broward, and I have the greatest opportunity today to speak to Robert Bartleman. She was actually one of our school board members, and now she's running for House District 104. And she had a call already to be an elected official. She's done that, and I believe she believes that she has more that she can do for her community, and that's why she's running for this seat. And so we're going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself and what it is that she wants to do for the people of House District 104.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Robin Bartleman. For those of you who don't know about me and it's your first time meeting me, I started my career as a special education teacher down in Miami. Public education is a passion for me. I'm the first one in my family to go to college because a group of retired Miami-Dade County public school teachers gave me a scholarship. And my debate teacher, Maura Ulrich, said, "Why don't you look into college?" I didn't even know, being raised by a single mother, that was even an option for me. I went on to become an assistant principal in Liberty City in the middle of the Scott housing projects, where I learned the dangers of high stakes testing, and I saw the impact of poverty and daily gun violence. From there, I became a city commissioner, and for the last 16 years, I've been your school board member. In addition to those roles, I serve on the Broward County Climate Change Task Force, where we have a 100-point plan to mitigate the impact of climate change. For over 10 years, I've served on the Broward County Children's Services Council, where we have a long-range plan. We identify gaps in services to children and families, and we create programs and fund those programs to fill those gaps. I'm also chair of the Special Needs Advisory Coalition, and I'm on the Department of Juvenile Justice Circuit 17 Advisory Board, where we're working to eliminate the schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline, just to name a couple of things. I've been going to Tallahassee for the last 16 years as a school board member. Fighting, trying to preserve public education, trying to change Republicans' minds. And when Rick Stark was term limited, I spoke to a number of people and they said, "Robin, it's time for you to get off the sidelines. It's time for you to take your passion, commitment, and experience to Tallahassee and fight for 104. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
All right. So you talk about a lot of things. Some of it has to do with me, or people in my family or folks that I know. I grew up in Miami, 305 all day.
Me too.
305 all day. And, it took me a long time to start to accept the fact that I actually live in Broward County, right? Because people say, "Where you from? Where you live?" I'm like, "I live in Miami." And I haven't lived in Miami since like 2001. But, Miami, it's just
in your blood. When you're from Miami, you're Miami. I get you.
Blood. Yes, and I'm familiar with the neighborhoods that you're talking about. I went to school. My schools were in Liberty City. 62nd Street, right off I-95 is where I went to high school, so I'm very familiar. But let's talk. I'm gonna break down a little bit of what you talked about, because you hit a bunch of points, and I'm like, we got to talk about these things, right? One of the things you said that you do is that you have a lot of involvement with special needs children, and my daughter's on the spectrum, and so ESC is one of those things that are important to me. I know you guys have the opportunity to introduce about 6 bills when you go. You're running for the House. Did you get
the House? So less bills, yeah.
Right. So I want to know if any of the bills that you're planning on introducing have anything to do with special needs children, and if not, we can just talk about the 6 bills and go from there.
I have different groups I work with because I represent on the Special Needs Advisory Coalition. We have every provider around the table. Okay. So what I'm going to do is sit down with them, and we also have a legislative platform. And I don't want to, because there's so many needs as it pertains to special education, I don't want to publicly commit to which ones I'm going to take on yet. But believe me, over the course of my time, I'm going to be taking them all on. But, I was in a classroom. My master's degree is in special education, so I definitely understand it. But we, as a community as a whole, we just had a Special Needs Advisory Coalition meeting. And the impacts of this pandemic are huge for our ESC population. They do not learn virtually, the majority of them. And if you have a child who's nonverbal, or a child with ADHD, or a child with a developmental disability, this computer learning is not going to cut it for them. And so we're going to have to deal with a lot of regression. As a school board member, I'm going to have to make sure over the next couple of months that the direct services that they're entitled to based on their IEP are given. And what we're working for now is we just designed a community access sheet that we're going to pass out to everybody and send it through our ESC advisory task force and different groups so parents know where to get help. We're also looking at increasing the Broward Children's Services Council respite care for parents, because you, as a parent, I don't know where your child is on the spectrum, but parents need respite. They need time. They need their time out. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you know what I'm talking about. A parent needs their time out. Yes. And so we're looking at increasing respite services and trying to find care. I mean, when we first started closing schools, I got very scared. I mean, and parents, working parents are going to have a really hard time with this. And now imagine we have working parents that have 16-year-olds that are like still in diapers. And do you know how difficult that's going to be for them to find care? It's hard enough to find care and babysitters as it is. And so these parents are really hurting out there. So I'm on all their Facebook groups. I've been working with all the different groups for years. So I've been getting phone calls, trying to make sure they get the services they need. And so it's a huge priority for me.
It definitely is. So, and the way I get my time off for my daughter, I'm like, it's time for you to walk away from your mother, right? It's like,
right.
Like, you know, I'm just like, you know what? It's time to walk away from your mother. Like, I just need like 5 minutes, and then she puts the timer on her phone and comes back. And 5 minutes are up. I was like, well, I guess I should have told you I needed like 45 minutes because she'll put that timer on and then she's back right after. It's like, you good now? Let's talk.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
No, it's interesting. So with that being said, and you know, I know Broward County had decided that they were gonna everybody was gonna go virtual. Do you see that there was any way that some people could have gone back to school in the middle of this pandemic, given the
we were looking at it when the numbers were lower, like, can we have our neediest kids who would benefit from in-person instruction, especially at the center schools? But there were other organizations opening up around us that were forced to close multiple times because a lot of the times the children are asymptomatic and then the teachers get it. So we reached out to those organizations that had opened, and it was a problem. So now what we're doing is we're looking at a possible pilot program. But really, you need to have the staff willing to go in and do this. And you know, some of their concerns is a lot of our teachers have underlying conditions. Mm-hmm. So they're more at risk. And a lot of students with disabilities, they have sensory issues and they're not going to keep the masks on.
Right.
And so what we're doing is Mr. Runcie is, they're looking at identifying teachers and possible parents. And then every 2 weeks, we're going to monitor the data and see when we can open up. And we had a whole plan. We had a hybrid model. We were going to do in school. We were going to do everything. And then the numbers just jumped up and and there's still people who think, oh my God, this isn't a big deal. This is a very big deal. People are dying every day.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure, I know the school board is very concerned and we want to be able to pivot to face-to-face instruction as soon as it's safe to do so. And so that's our plan. And I'm waiting to see what comes of the pilot program and how many people were interested and if it can be done.
Okay, then. All right. So that's what. We talked a little bit about school. Some of the things for special needs are, and then let's get back to your bills, and then I'm going to get into the issue. So, do you have an idea of any of the 6 bills that you want to introduce, or you still want to meet with different organizations?
I have a lot of bills, but I don't want to commit to anything online.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Because I only have. There's also I'm looking at Campaign Zero.
Okay.
Which that's where you don't have to reinvent the wheel and actually look at reform. And so that's something I'm looking at as well. Oh. But there's so many issues out there. But if you say something now, you're on the hook.
And the world changes. The world changes like every day. You think like this was like priority number 1, and then all of a sudden something happens. You be like, oh my God, I can't even like get to that because we got to get past this hurdle first. So that's definitely
that's absolutely true. I had like all these ideas and pies in the sky, and now the legislature, we have to focus on recovery from this pandemic and the economy. That's going to be the biggest deal. School systems, municipalities, they're all going to start feeling it in 2021.
Yeah.
And the budget, and so whatever, and unemployment, like that's a huge priority for everybody to fix that unemployment system, because that, first of all, we have the stingiest unemployment system, I think, in the country. $275 a week. We only go 12 weeks. So you have to expand the part-time eligibility. You have to increase from 12 to 26 weeks. You need to increase the cost. You got to get rid of the job search requirement. So there has to be reform there, because I meet people every day. I am on the phone every day, and people are hurting. Yeah. And you can't tell me it's user error when over 1 million people can't get on a computer system. That's called a user experience problem.
Right.
Just own it and fix it and get these people their checks. They're bleeding right now, and we need to be there for them. So whatever we can do to reboot the economy, get people whatever they need. I mean, I was working in Pembroke Pines for many weeks, passing out at the food distribution center, and I have to tell you, I'm all in for Feeding South Florida. They have fed so many people. All the food sites I've been to in Miramar and Pines, they are feeding people and taking care of people. but it's sad to see people come up and have to ask for food to feed their families. So right now the priority has to be getting Florida back on its feet, using science to drive decisions, and keeping our families healthy and safe.
Yeah, and that's important because I did some of the fruit drives in the West Park area, right? And then it was amazing. Like, and not, I don't know, amazing is not the right word. It just shows you like how serious this situation is, because it was all types of people there getting, getting the food from the food distribution places. I mean, it was just like a range, and we make assumptions about folks.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Drive, and I'm just like, yo, dude, like you really need to get this box of food, but it's that serious, right? Like, I mean, it's really something that hit everybody on all kind of levels, and you can't judge at all because it really affected like so many people.
Like when we had our first like Mercedes come through and people were like, brand new Mercedes. Yeah. And I was working with some kids and I'm like, why do they need food? And I say, well, if you spend all your money on your rent or on your mortgage and your car payments and you don't have savings, and you spend your paycheck as soon as it comes in, you can have all those nice things, but when you lose your paycheck, you don't have money to pay for all of them now. Mm-hmm. So they may have their car now, but eventually it's going to get repossessed, and all these people are scared to death they're going to be evicted. So it just shows you the dire need in our community and how it impacts everyone. Yeah. I knocked on a door with someone who has kindergarten triplets before the pandemic. And she called me afterward and she was telling me about her husband losing her job, and it brought me to tears. And so it's hitting everybody.
It is.
So when they tell you it's not real, people aren't dying, it's not hurting people, then they're not really out in the community, because I see friends and people I know being hospitalized for COVID. I see people losing their jobs. Another woman is a small business owner. She has 2 girls in college. She needs money. The job she does involves face-to-face interaction, event planning. It's a real problem for people. And so really we need to come together. And this is an opportune time for Republicans and Democrats. And I'm hoping the Republicans will do this, to come together and do what's right for Floridians, because they don't care if you're red or blue, what your socioeconomic status is. This pandemic is hurting everybody. So we need to come together, reform the unemployment insurance system. We need to look at generating new revenue. We need to look at expanding healthcare. So there are serious issues out there that this is an opportune time for all of us to come together and say, we need to fix this.
And right. And it's true, because even if you were one of those people that did everything right? Because I'm one of those people, I went to college, I got a degree, I have a job. And I mean, I teach, and I'm also was a small business owner too, right? And when it was time to even try to get that PPP loan, like it was such a like crazy nightmare. Like I just had to like leave it alone. And luckily, I was still teaching, and but even if you had your savings, I mean, we're like 5 months deep into this right now, right? So even if you were
savings depleted now,
gone, right? Because between the electric bill and the amount of groceries you have to buy and all of this stuff, it's just like, even if you tried to do it right, like we're at the tail end that even the most responsible person that had 6 months of savings, they're about to be out of it, right? And and what is it that you're going to do? They're going to be out of those savings. And where's the end line? Like we don't even see like, okay, this is going to be better in a couple of weeks, or this is going to be better in a month. It's like it was getting good, and then it's worse now. And then what do we do? So so it's important. And then imagine the people who used to had a job and they lost their job, and then with losing your job, you also lose your health insurance, right? And then and I've had to do COBRA coverage before.
It's so expensive, and it's a nightmare. Expensive. Oh my God. And we leave 800,000 Floridians uninsured by not accepting Medicaid dollars. That's a travesty. And I know the Republicans, they're hard line on that, but come on, people don't have insurance. And do you know Broward County is number 2 in the state for uninsured children? That was before the pandemic. Imagine now.
Yeah.
So there's ways we can modify kid care to expand access, and we need to take, advantage of those opportunities and offer people health care.
Yeah, no, and I'm telling you that makes sense too, because even like we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I'm starting a job next week, and when I had to add the children to the insurance, I'm like, wait, this is gonna cost me like $1,000, right? Yeah. I'm just like, how am I gonna go to work and give you guys back $1,000, and spend $1,000 a month on health insurance for the children? I'm like, I might be better off just kind of paying for them to go to the doctor, like self-pay, and it's not cheaper. But of course, we always keep insurance in case you have an emergency.
But kid care you can do for people who are listening. There is a kid care that's on a sliding scale, and there's a kid care that's a full pay. So it doesn't matter what you make. So I suggest everyone go to kid care and look at it, because if you can't afford the insurance with your employer, you have an opportunity to access an insurance system through the state that's more affordable.
And are they able to join that at any time, or does it have an enrollment period?
Well, I think because even if I'm not sure about we do start enrolling people at the beginning of school, but people like are in crisis right now and have changed in circumstances. So that's why I'm thinking they should all go on now and see. It's much more affordable, and you're paying the full price because you don't have access to the sliding scale, although many people may not realize that they would qualify for kid care. And it's a way to get your children. They have mental health care, they have dental, and they have medical insurance. And so that's a program that we need to expand. And I'm on the BSHAC committee with the health department, which is a collaboration between the health department and the school board. And we try to get this information out to our parents and try to help them enroll for those who can't navigate the system, especially the neediest parents.
Yeah, that's important, and thanks for providing that information, because I'm
Oh,
sure
no
a lot of
problem.
people didn't know that. So that's very important. You also said that you do some stuff with juvenile justice program. Does that have anything to do with the Promise program that's part of the school system, or is that something?
Yes, that came out of I've been serving on the Department of Juvenile Justice Circuit 17 Advisory Board for over 8 years, and we started having conversations about Broward County having the highest arrest rate in the state as it pertained to minority students and special education students, which are near and dear to my heart. So, and so what we did is we created a collaborative agreement. Judge Elijah Williams actually went out to Las Vegas, and he goes, "I'm going to go to this panel because looks interesting." He'll tell the story. He tells it much better. So he went into this panel, and he met Judge Teskey, and Judge Teskey started a program in Clayton County, Georgia, which has been incredibly successful. And it has to do with not arresting people for nonviolent misdemeanors in the schools and getting them to a program where they can actually receive services. And so it's been, for the children who've attended, it's been very successful. We get them if they have a drug problem, an alcohol problem. A lot of them have mental health issues where we're able to help them. You'll find out if someone's cutting or contemplating suicide, and that's why they're acting out. So it really makes a difference. And that's Campaign Zero also talks about that it's more important, to decriminalize some of those minor offenses and get people the services they need so you can really rehabilitate them. So it's really important to do that.
Yeah, that's definitely important, because we're realizing that when you incarcerate someone at any age, it really has like a impact on them that's lifelong.
It sets the trajectory immediately. It's for once you're in that system, you want to do everything to avoid that system, get the child in a diversion program. That's why civil citation is so important. But we monitor the civil citation numbers across the county, and some municipalities are using it more than others. And we have that data to see that, and we try to encourage people. Let's get the kids away. Let's not put them in the cuffs. Let's get them the services they need and get them on the right path. Also, our detention centers, and I'm not supposed to speak about anything, but I promise things, but the DJJ has been working very hard and advocating for money for a new detention center here, which really needs to be done. I've been to it like 3 or 4 times, and they may paint the walls, but it's like lipstick on a pig. It has huge plumbing problems. There are a lot of issues with the facility. It's an aging facility. But my goal is not to have to use the facility and make sure kids all have the right path, but that's an issue, is getting that facility updated as long as people are in there. Also, direct file is a big issue here in the state. And usually when you direct file someone under 18, they go right into solitary confinement, which is very dangerous for their mental health. And so there are different things we're going to have to look at as it pertains to juvenile justice as well. And I'm looking forward to working with the board I'm on to do that.
Yeah, and that is important, because oftentimes if you have someone that young that's engaging in whatever type of behavior, something else has to be going on. Like, they just didn't wake up that day like, oh, I'm about to go out here and wild out and do all of these crazy things. It has to be something that's going on in their life. Every now and then it might be some kid that might really just be that type of kid, but oftentimes there's always something else that's happening that's causing that behavior in order for them to act out. So
there's always an underlier. Like we actually had I think it's a firefighter. He came to the board to talk about his daughter, and they did everything they could to get her into drug treatment, and it was going through the school system that we were able to help her, and now she's working and doing great. And the reason this was really important to Judge Williams was he would have people come to his courthouse for really silly arrests, and they want to join the Army right now, Army or go to college. And once you have that arrest on your record, that they don't ask you, have you been convicted anymore? They ask you, have you been arrested? And so, and really we can go ahead and spend all this money on the prison system, which we do in the state of Florida. But if we were proactive, we could really change lives and make a difference. And you need to invest the money on the front end. And that's why public education is so important, because we have turned into a service provider for everything. Like when public education first started, it was like, you're going to learn to read and learn to write. Then with the Great Depression, we started taking over food and social services. And so we have the opportunity to create amazing, law-abiding citizens. And you can see that with the students we have that are out right now advocating and how great they are. Yes. And so that's what public education does. It's like the great equalizer, and it really changes lives. And so we have to look to, we have to create programs and atmospheres that create those types of citizens. For instance, we have been doing courageous conversations in our school districts for years, even before George Floyd. We have, at the Children's Services Council, we've been funding implicit bias training for the whole county, and people are invited to come in, and if you haven't done it, I suggest you do it, because people say they're not prejudiced, and they believe that, but everyone has implicit biases. You cannot tell me you do not. Everyone does. And so it's learning to recognize your implicit bias and to overcome it. And we were working with Fort Lauderdale and Children's Services Council also on the implicit bias training with the police department. That was years ago, 2 years ago we started that, I think 3. So it's really important to, you know, for me, this public education is an opportunity to shape children's lives for the better, which will shape our country for the better.
Yeah, it's good that you said that, because there's a candidate or two that's running right now for different seats that came through the public school system, and one of them participated in the Boy State program. That's also part of, like, you know, they're referred by someone at the school, and they get to participate in this program. And I mean, they're exciting and amazing and doing great things. And you can see that you can definitely get a great education and coming out of the public school system, and that's really important. I wanted to ask a little bit, and I don't know, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine too. Like, what are your thoughts on like the charter schools? Because I'm a person that I went through a public school system in Miami, and full disclosure, I have a son that's in a charter school, and my daughter goes to public school because I told you she's ESC and she needs services that the charter school couldn't provide. So like, and I know I've spoken to several candidates, school board candidates, different ones, and they're saying that they prefer that the state puts more money into making public school better as opposed to funneling sending the money to charter schools. Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you think there needs to be any reform on how they deal with charter schools, or is that something that, you know, that's
charter schools are actually public schools. They get FTE dollars. Mm-hmm. In my district, I have the Pines charter school system, and it is the only, it's a municipal run charter system that is owned by, their buildings are owned by the taxpayers, mm-hmm. and their teachers and employees are unionized. It's very unique. It's the only one like that. So charter schools do give parents choice, but they still have to take the Florida Education Assessment. They have to have degreed teachers. What's more dangerous to me, and something that everyone needs to be focusing on, is the vouchers.
Okay.
So vouchers are the biggest problem, and that truly does take money right away from public education with no accountability. So what happens is, if I
interrupt you, but can you explain the difference, like with the voucher?
Sure. Of course I can.
He goes to Somerset. He goes to.
It's Somerset.
We can't get into Pines Charter. We've been trying. They keep putting us in the lottery wait list, all that. So we haven't been able to get in. So,
come back to us. We have great schools. Come back to us. We have great schools. But okay, so a charter school is managed, it's approved by the school district, it's managed by usually a nonprofit or a for-profit company, and people have the biggest criticism of the for-profit company because nobody should be getting rich off of public education or prison system or social services. But they have guidelines and rules they have to follow. They don't always do. We've had a number of schools, and Dr. Osgood is the biggest advocate for this, where we have had to close charter schools with bad players. And like we had one that didn't pay payroll taxes, one that didn't pay their teachers. So we want to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing and are accountable. And with charter schools, there is some level of accountability. They receive a school grade, etc. A voucher is just simply, and I always explain it like this, like, this is my coupon, I get my voucher, and I can go to any school I want. Private school, but there's no accountability with a voucher. If you don't go to an accredited school, you can potentially be going to school with teachers that only have high school degrees
Mm.
without an approved curriculum. There's no testing. There's no way to know where your dollars are going because they don't have to report those kind of things to the state. Also, there's a huge problem because if you take a voucher, like for instance, many vouchers go to private schools that discriminate against our LGBTQ students. That's a real problem for me. There's no room for discrimination. And also there's no accountability as to how those tax dollars are spent if someone's getting rich off of those tax dollars. And so they just get to go and do whatever they want. And you would understand this as a ESE parent. We have a McKay Opportunity Scholarship Program. Okay, so that is also a voucher. But when it first opened, there was no accountability. I had people opening up storefront like schools and saying, we're gonna take your kid, and you're in the public school system right now because we have the services, because
Yes.
we're accountable for those services. So I had a kid that was intellectually disabled, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and language therapy. Second grade, we had just gotten him potty trained. The mom said, we're going to try the school. They came, they gave me I can go for free. I'm going to try it. The kid he went after FTE. There was no check and balance. When they returned, after they got the tax dollar check, the kid did not receive any services, not OT, PT, nothing. The kid regressed. All the progress we made, we had to start back at square one. And that's the problem. And also the problem with my coupon is, if you went to a total voucher system, this is how it's going to work. My coupon is $7,000. You have a $7,000 coupon, but you make $200,000 a year. So you're going to be able to go to Pinecrest. You're going to be able to go to North Broward Prep because you're going to be able to put in $20,000, $30,000 of your own money to get that education, where the teachers get paid more, where they have better curriculums, where they have computers. If I have a $7,000 voucher, I'm getting $7,000 wherever I can find it. It creates a huge imbalance. Now, there are people who say, well, I need choice and I want my kids to have an opportunity. I should have to pick. Okay, even if you buy into that, choice without accountability for how those dollars are spent are a real problem. And there are children, you can never take back the time that child is away from a good education. You never recoup that.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, and I have to tell you that I had that experience where I was like I was looking around for different schools because you have this kid and you want to do the best for your kid, right? And you think like taking them into a school because when they send you the brochure and they're telling you about the program, they said they're going to do all this fantastic stuff. And I consider myself an educated person, so I went. I made they said the school was small and they did all this stuff, so I took the McKay funding, and like you said, not only did they get that money, I was actually making a monthly payment. So it wasn't only they took the McKay money, and I was paying in addition to that too, wow. Right? And they had a completely different learning. And there's like, you just got to buy into the process. And there's like, well, she doesn't have homework. I'm like, why this girl don't have homework? She learns by repetition. What are you doing? But there's like, no, just trust the process. So I spent a year there. But like halfway through, I knew I couldn't trust the process. I was like, I don't think this is going to work out. But I was like, well, let's just see. When I brought my daughter back into public school and I made her repeat the third grade. And because the third grade is so important, because I thought
you lost a year.
Yeah, she lost a whole year. And she was pissed at me the whole time because she was like, I did third grade already. I'm supposed to be in the fourth grade. And I mean, I had to deal with her, yelling at me every morning. I dropped her off at public school for like months because I thought I was doing the best thing. And it absolutely was. So my experience was that it wasn't the right thing. Because, again, you want to do the best, but sometimes it's trial and error. And I hate that she lost that time because she was so much better in the public school system.
That's why the parents have to really pay attention to what they do. And there are people out there who will try to take advantage. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying everyone is terrible. I don't want to, but there are definitely bad players out there that will take advantage of it. And this is your kid. And when I hear parents tell me I need to leave the public schools or I need to do this, I'm like, okay, you're the parent. You have to go with what your gut. But I can tell you, we have accountability. We have degree teachers. Even our VPK model that we have here in the Broward County Public School System, we have degreed preschool teachers. They all have college degrees, which is rare even at your preschools. They just have the industry certification. They don't have those degrees. So it's important to get that out. And it's just, people just need to, and even now with the pandemic, there are going to be even greater disparities. I follow all the parent groups. They're parents that are setting up pods and they're going to pay somebody $1,000 a month to come in and facilitate instruction in their pod. So that's a real problem for me. So when I get to Tallahassee, we really have to invest in public education to make up for this regression that's going to occur and the disparity that's going to occur between high socioeconomic and low socioeconomic families. Mm-hmm. And so it's a real thing, and it makes me very sad to see that happening. So I wish, I think you did the right thing. If you can have a do-over year and get all those kids caught up, it's a good thing to do. I have parents in the ESE community asking me, can we extend the federal guideline so that we can have an extra year since we're going to lose all this time? Yeah. So it's all things that need to be looked into. And I'm sorry, we're just going on.
No, trust me when I tell you it's all important, because I have a couple of ESC moms that they're going to get on here, and and I hate that we weren't able to do this live, but they're going to be commenting, and they're probably going to have me send you some questions because
they can. Actually, my cell phone number is 954-668-3662. I feel good if it's a specific school question, go to rbartleman@browardschools.com. If it's just a general question that I can do for the state, just call me. But if you're having an issue with your kid in the school now, contact your school. If you don't feel you're getting help or the answers, or you need guidance, go to my school board, and you can contact me there as well. So. Yeah.
No, it's definitely important. And I have to say that my son did his VPK through Broward County Public School System.
Good.
It was, yeah. So he did it. So I believe in public school, but I just was frustrated with the school where my daughter was. And I was like, I'm going to put her in another program. I don't care what it costs, and I do. And it was like, oh my God, they weren't following the IUP. And then the things that they were complaining about, I'm like, do you know who this kid is? You can't complain about that. That's what she does. This is who she is. Like, who are you trying to make her? I mean, they're like, but she's going to have to know how to adjust in, the real world. I'm like, the real world's going to have to figure out how to deal with her being who she is, okay?
And you also capitalize on kids' abilities. That's really important. One of the things I've worked on is employment opportunities for students with disabilities, and created WOW with a gentleman named Lou Ricola, where we have students working throughout the community. We also have Project Search, which is a classroom in Memorial Miramar Hospital. And it used to, we can't do it now, but kids were actually working in the hospital and getting hired. So there's so many things that need to be done when you talk about the number of bills. But right now, our Floridians are hurting, and they deserve better than what they're getting. So we as a legislature need to go up there this session, even call a special session to start dealing with these issues.
Absolutely. But I can't let you go without talking about the environment. It's such
that's not a problem.
We have to talk about the environment. Again, especially the young guys that I've been speaking to. They just been educating me on this whole thing. We have this issue of red tides, blue-green algae. Like the water aquifers and all of that stuff. Like, what's your position on it? Are you going to try to advocate for any of the environmental stuff or?
Absolutely. I'm actually endorsed by the Sierra Club.
Okay.
And I serve on the Climate Change Task Force, where we have a 100-point plan to mitigate the impacts of climate change. It's a regional approach because you can't do things on your own. That's one thing. And it's the one committee when I get home at night, I can't sleep when we get the updated sleep level rise projections. And it really impacts District 104 because we border the Everglades. Mm-hmm. And when people think about, global warming, they're thinking about people on the east, but that's not true. Because all of us out here west in Pines and West End and Southwest Ranches, we have canals all over and lakes. And when we have a storm event, all of you should be noticing that there's more sitting water on your street. You'll see that, because when the water can't drain into the canal, and the canal can't drain into the C11 canal, and the C11 canal can't drain into the Everglades, and the Everglades can't drain in the ocean, that's a huge problem. So there are a couple things you have to do. You have to make sure we spend Amendment 1 on what it's intended for. We have to make sure we can conserve fresh groundwater. We should work with the Water Management District to work on collection, retaining, and recycling of water. We also need to look at creating infrastructure to move to electric cars at some point. And as a school system, we were looking at electric buses as well. We actually have over 200 that run on propane now. But I support working with environmental groups and scientists. Let me just say that again. And scientists, yes. Where if people had listened to scientists, we'd be okay.
We'd be better off.
I know, to create policies that'll make a difference. So very important to me.
Absolutely. And so a couple other things. I don't know if housing is an issue in your district. Is there is there any issues with housing? Because
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm getting priced out. Like the tax, by the time they add the taxes and insurance to my mortgage payment, I'm like, oh Lord, like what am I gonna do? You know, and then I have other people that can't even. They're like, listen, I can't even live out here. I'm gonna be on some block where I gotta dodge bullets because it's just so expensive.
Well, Broward County has one of the worst housing crises in the nation. With people don't have access to affordable housing. So in the last couple of years, they've been not this year, they didn't do it, but other years, they would raid the Sadowski Trust Fund, which is for affordable housing. So we need to make sure that those dollars are spent. And so, yeah, people can't afford to live there. We can't recruit teachers here because they're not going to come with their salaries and be able to live and own a home. So it's something we have to provide affordable housing, use the funds as they're intended, which is a huge problem in Tallahassee. If the people speak, listen. The people spoke on Amendment 4. Don't come behind and create a bill. Don't come behind the voters and their intentions and create a bill to change things. When we vote for Amendment 1 for money to be spent on the environment, when we have a Sadowski Trust Fund, voters do those things and speak up because we're not meeting their needs. So it's our job not to circumvent what the voters want, and they need help. And so I get very frustrated with what happens at Tallahassee. They also like to take away home rule, which is a big problem. And so it's just very frustrating to me. And I think Amendment 4 is like the picture that you want to paint for how Florida has been circumventing the will of the voters.
Exactly. And I mean, it was one that was like 65% of the people voted for it. I mean,
exactly.
you get 65% of the people to vote to agree on anything. And if they agree on that, like, come on.
And they didn't say, and we didn't have a little asterisk, but create a poll tax so people can't vote and have to pay all their fines. There was no asterisk at the end of that amendment. They were like, you know, it's very frustrating for me. So when I get up there, it's really going to be about what do the voters need? What do they want? What will better society? What will help the families in my community? What will help everyone in my community, and try to make that difference up there. And it's, you know, it's getting through all the partisanship. But like I said, this is a rare moment in time. We haven't had a pandemic in this country since like the Spanish flu. So this is a time, this is a time where we can say, hey, let's do some things. We know people don't have insurance. Let's expand Medicaid. We know our unemployment system failed everybody. Let's clean that up. We know our small businesses are dying. Let's go back to our small business recovery fund and see how we can make that system work. We know that children have regressed because they're online learning. Let's invest in public education and let's go to those neediest kids. We know our ESE students who many of them could not learn online. That's a problem. Let's go back and get those services to them that they missed. So I don't know how someone as a human being can agree with those common, you know, themes of trying to help. It's not a party. It's just doing what's right for people. And all of healthcare, education, housing, all those things have to do with people, and it's about helping those people. And so I'm hoping that we'll make a difference.
Absolutely. And with the transportation, and so the other two things I usually talk to everyone about is transportation in South Florida is really bad. I don't even know how to fix this. Everybody has a car. You know, you would want, like, if there was a train that could get me into downtown or where I need to go, I would get on it. I mean, I don't want to drive all the time. We have such a huge problem with transportation. Is there anything at the end of the tunnel of this thing that we call South Florida traffic?
I think as we move to, as we look to green initiatives, that's a way to deal with transportation.
Okay.
I think that electric cars, there's going to be a point in time where, like, look, this is not good for the environment anymore, the traffic. But I can tell you that Floridians that do have cars do not want to get rid of their cars. We had a situation where we were going to have a park and ride. There's a proposal for a park and ride in 2 of the cities in my district. Nobody wanted that park and ride in their city. They wanted their cars.
They wanted their cars.
They wanted their cars. So it's a problem. Also, Pembroke Pines legislatively wants to have more transportation for its veterans, to give money for buses. So that's a priority there that we need to look at. And I know they were trying to get funding last session, and And the next session, we're going to try to do that, but the budget's going to be terrible.
Right.
That's definitely a need, transportation for our seniors and transportation for our veterans. There is there is one bus route that goes through Weston, but the problem with it is it stays on Weston Road. And if you know how deep, and if you live in Pembroke Pines, it's like Dykes Road, right?
Yeah,
Weston
it's Dykes. I'm in Miramar, but yeah, it's Dykes.
Yes, so you can get dropped off there, but you know how far you have to walk to get to wherever you need to go?
Yeah, get into Bonaventure or something like that. Like, it's not happening.
It's just so, there's so many things that need to be done. And honestly, there's a crisis going on, and it's an opportunity to do what's right by Floridians. So.
Absolutely. And I know Pembroke Pines, they have like these little buses that have different colorful routes or something like that. Yeah. So they have that. That's better than Miramar. I don't think Miramar even have that. We just have one bus, like number 28.
They have a city transportation system, and they have and also within Century Village, there's a bus system within Century Village, but that's private and paid for, and there's seniors who live outside of Century Village that also need it. And so we need to just make sure we increase the funding to increase those services. And not only is it good, it helps people, but it helps the environment.
It does.
It's like it's bonus points for transportation when you do something like that.
Yes. And so the last thing that bothers me, and I'm not in your district, but I have a lot of friends who live, and they literally like they're the next big street over, and we're like in different districts. I'm like, I don't understand. Okay, like you're not even that far from me. So they're fracking because my house shakes like every couple of days.
No fracking. That's easy. I think you know where I stand on that. That's an easy one. We just got to get the rest of the legislature. So yeah, I get it.
All right. So it's only a couple more days. I mean, early voting ends on Sunday, so they have they got a couple more days that they can do early voting. Election is on the 18th. Tell people, I don't think they could donate anymore, but they can probably still volunteer. So tell people to get in touch with you if they want to talk to you.
RobinBartleman.com. I have a lot of volunteers who've been working on my plan. Also, you can call me at 954-668-3662. I had an opportunity to meet a lot of voters before the pandemic. I actually knocked on doors. I've been knocking on doors since last June, and then I stopped with the pandemic because I didn't think it was responsible. And I actually got on the ballot by petition. So I want to thank everyone out there who's watching today who signed my petition. Thank you. All my volunteers. And it's a lot. I feel a lot I really want to have an opportunity to do this. Look, I started out wanting to make a difference for kids because somebody helped me, and that's why I became a special education teacher. And then I was helping teachers, and that's why I became an assistant principal to try to help and guide teachers who can help kids. And everything I do is to make a difference for people. And this will give me an opportunity to go to Tallahassee and basically get off the sidelines. Because for 16 years, I've been going to Tallahassee and fighting and yelling and saying, don't arm my teachers. By the way, I'm a Moms Demand Action Gun Sense candidate. Or going up and fighting for public education, or fighting for teacher salary, or fighting for kid care, all of those things, fighting for special needs, with the police training, which I'm sure you appreciated. To teach police how to deal with individuals with disabilities. And when 1 in 64 births or individuals are born on the autism spectrum, it's going to be more important as people start aging that law enforcement do know how to deal with individuals with disabilities. So I've been up there for quite a while. I worked with Gary Farmer to get $200,000 for suicide prevention training. About 3 years ago, we had the highest number of deaths by suicide in Broward County Public Schools. So now I actually have an opportunity to be the one to propose the bills to make that, and to sit on the floor and get things done for my community. So I'm so excited about this opportunity.
All right, thank you so much.
Right. Oh, and I didn't mention any of my endorsements for people who want to know. I'm endorsed by the.
Tell us.
Okay, so I'm endorsed by the Broward Teachers Union, the Florida Education Association, the AFL-CIO, SEIU, Florida Firefighter and Paramedics, National Organization of Women, Ruth's List, Emily's List, Equality Florida, Dolphin Democrats, Sierra Club. I don't want to hit on things I've already said, the Sun Sentinel, and many others, but the endorsement I need is yours. Yes. So I hope you give me an opportunity to go to Tallahassee and fight for you and your families. I'm going to have an open door policy. That number I gave you is my personal cell phone, same cell phone number I've had for 20 years. Give me a call. I want to hear what's important to you, and I look forward to going to Tallahassee to fight for you. And I had such a good time speaking with you. We have so much in common.
Yes, yes.
Aside from being 3 to 5 girls,
yes,
it's awesome.
5 all day. And I just wanted to tell, like, you know, because it's a range of endorsements that you have. You have like the unions, you just have like different organizations. So it's a lot of different people that's coming together that's supporting what it is that you're doing.
Do you know which one was really important to me too that I didn't mention was the Florida Medical Association?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had an opportunity to meet with them and hear what they were going through in this pandemic. So when we're out there not wearing our masks or not taking precautions and spreading COVID, and they're away from their families and having to like sleep in hotel rooms and worry because they're actually working in a COVID unit.
Yes.
So they know they're exposed. You know, the rest of us, we don't know sometimes when we go to Publix. I mean, we really have to be responsible at this point and wear our masks and just do everything we can to eradicate this pandemic. I see New Zealand did it. Other countries have the curve going down. We got to do it. And it's hard. Like, I think we're all committed to it. It's just now it's become the norm. Like, we kind of turn off to it a lot of times and we can't because people are still dying and it's a real problem. And I'm very concerned what's going to happen to the state of Florida and our country in 2021, 22. We know that the budgets, we already see a decrease in the budgets. They're already talking about special budget conferences. School systems are preparing, municipalities are going to prepare. It's a time, and I think that's why it's important to have experienced leaders and people who know the community who can go in and hit the ground running and do what we need to do to help our economy and our families recover from this.
Right, and we always want people that's ready day one, not one day.
Yeah, that's true, and I am. I think I'm unique in that I've been look, for 16 years I've been a countywide elected official, and that's really important because that brings a really unique perspective to the table. I could have run for like governor of Rhode Island and it would have been easier. When I ran, I didn't run for a district seat. I ran for a countywide seat because I wanted to focus on big picture issues and things that are important to me. So I know the needs of this community from like north to south, east to west, because I've been representing people for all these years. So I know what's going on out there and I'm ready to go fight. So,
all righty, thank you.
Go out and vote, and more importantly, go out and vote in November.
Yes.
We have to turn Florida blue.
We
Everyone
do.
needs to go out. Everyone, we can't have any more of this. It's part of the problem here. So
yeah, vote like your life depends on it because it does, right?
Yeah, more than ever, your life depends on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much. I really appreciated talking to you and getting to know everybody. 954-668-3662. Call me anytime, and just everyone, please stay healthy and safe.